This footage is from the 2014 BFRO New Jersey Pine Barrens expedition. We had located some tracks down by the bridge on Saturday morning. It had rained all night long, starting at midnight the night before, and a heavy downpour all night long into the morning. I got a radio transmission from Mike F. telling me he found an possible impression and to come down and take a look. Here we are inspecting the track. As I was crouched down by the bush to the left of the one that he found, I looked down on the ground and I found a second track impression. It leads me to believe that the individual probably was trying to avoid detection by a passing vehicle, potentially overnight, or that it came down to seek shelter under the bridge embankment. Here I am getting ready to cast the impression that I found. The tracks measured 12.5 in length by 5.5 at the ball and 3.5 at the heel. The impression was nice and deep. The one that Mike found was especially deep because there was some slippage as the individual came down the embankment. Now, he came down, or she, I should say, because I have a feeling it's an adult female. That's a guess, of course, but judging by the impression's length and dimensions, I would say it's probably not an adult male. But the one that I'm casting here, I'm showing the attendees how to do a track casting. And it was great because I had planned on doing one that afternoon anyhow, and I said, wow, this is even better. These are real. So here I am sticking some bamboo skewers in as rebar. It gives the cast additional strength. I mean, it was still raining even at this point, and we were very fortunate to find the tracks and to not have them, degraded by the rain overnight, which also leads us to believe that they were fairly fresh. There were no other individuals nearby, although a troop of Boy Scouts did show up that morning and were starting to set up camp, but none had come down to the creek at that point. We also had some game cams set up, which would have indicated had there been any people, putting in kayaks or canoes. Here we are getting ready to cast the second impression, which was actually the one that Mike found originally. It was, again, a little deeper because of the, I believe, the weight that the individual placed on the ground as it was trying to avoid detection. And then I think it kind of turned and crouched down under the bridge, under that bush there rather, to give it greater shelter. There were no other tracks in that immediate vicinity, and we checked across the creek to see if any were on the other bank. While we were measuring and checking these out, a couple of attendees, Jesse and Alex from Connecticut, walked downstream and located some juvenile tracks. This is a picture of the impression that I found, and this is the original one that Mike found after they had come out of the ground. So now we're going to go across to the other side of the creek, a little downstream, where Jesse and Alex found a number of impressions. These, we believe, are made by a juvenile. They measured 8.5 by 3 by 2. And there was very distinct qualities about them. There was no transverse arch. This was really black, yucky mud. Didn't see how any parent would potentially allow their, teenager or child to dance around in this mud. They don't have the indication that they're made by humans. There's a picture of some of the better impressions. You can actually see the toe compression in a number of them. This one we put a Bic lighter down for scale. I like how the toe impressions are really showing that compression, and that's another thing that I look for as far as authenticity. So we mixed up some more plaster. We used a higher grade caster on this particular set of tracks, and for a couple of them I wanted to do that. So I would like to acknowledge Kevin R. for helping with the GoPro footage and filming the track casting. We We set the casts and then covered them with those plastic bags that you see to allow them to dry. It was still raining slightly at that point. And we went back to base camp and periodically would come down, to check to make sure nobody was disturbing our track casts. We waited until they were dry, and then that afternoon it had cleared up a bit, and a couple of attendees were coming back into camp, so we called them over and had them join us for removal of the track cast from the ground. While I was pulling out the juvenile casts, one of the attendees actually was speaking with another guy, and she saw some movement from across the creek, what appeared to be a auburn colored large hairy arm move up and then back down, and she spun the other guy around and said, "Look!" And in that split second time, whatever it was had of course vanished. Later in the afternoon, Mike F and Tom C took a hike upstream on the same side of the creek that we found the juvenile tracks, and while they were investigating a marshy area, also saw some movement that they thought was, Squatch related. Took some photographs. It's hard to tell by the pictures what it exactly is, but they believe they saw something, a dark brown or black colored individual on one side of the marsh and a reddish brown auburn colored individual on the right hand side. So we did have some activity on this expedition that I'm very excited about. The track finds are especially exciting because it's one thing to find an adult track impression, but an entirely different thing to find juvenile track impressions, and we located approximately 18 juvenile tracks in addition to the 2 adult female track impressions. So overall, a pretty good day of squatching. The next morning we made some recasts. I taught a class on recasting track impressions, track casts, and a few of the attendees got to bring home a cast for themselves. Saturday night's operations stayed closer to base camp due to our track find. We did wind up spooking the Boy Scout troop that had shown up and was in the neighboring group campsite. But all in all, I'm very excited and very pleased with the results. We had a great group of attendees, and I want to thank everybody for suiting up and showing up and really bringing a lot to the table. You couldn't ask for a better bunch to do an expedition with. So hope you enjoyed the video, and look forward to making some more in the future.